Hey everyone, so welcome back. We're going to be doing the solar today. So I've roped in Jake here, who's a family member, and he's got some experience in installing solar. So
qualified backyard auto elect.
So Jake did a big trip last year, him and his girlfriend, around Australia, and they use a solar setup in their vehicle. So I guess Jake, what did you set up in your vehicle?
Similar setup to what we're doing here, besides the fixed solar. Our rooftop tent made it a little bit difficult to have a fixed solar panel, so we just installed the got an isolator and then a solar MPP TT charger. And so we just every time we pulled up to camp, we parked in the shade and then obviously ran the solar panels out into the sun and charged her up. And I think I was happy with the setup. We stayed in one spot for 2 weeks straight and didn't turn the car on, and fridge was running, full batteries every night when the sun went down. And
perfect.
So I thought, I must have done something right.
Yeah. So today we're going to try and hopefully get the solar panels fixed on the roof, and then probably push the cables through to the van, and then probably another day we'll then look to set up the inside of the van in terms of the inverter, the battery, and any other cabling we can do. So yeah, let's see how we get on today.
Hi, I'm Richard, and this is my fiancée Rachelle, and our little Westie Raymond. We recently bought a Mercedes Sprinter, which we'll be converting into a campervan office. We'll be doing this whilst working full-time jobs and being in and out of lockdown. We live in Melbourne, Australia, where I currently work full-time from home in our second bedroom/office. However, in June 2021, we're expecting a new baby girl to be with us, and so I have until then to build and convert this van into something resembling an office space. I've got no experience and no idea. So join us as we build the van in our spare time, with the help of friends and family, whilst the clock ticks down to June. Hey guys, what you doing? Stay completely still. You can't see us if we're not moving. Hey everyone. So what I am doing now is, I guess, telling you what you're about to see, even though it's already happened retrospectively. So I've done a lot of work videoing stuff and making sure that I'm videoing what I'm actually doing, and less amount of actually telling you what I'm doing. So retrospectively, I'm going to just tell you what I'm doing now and slot that in. So you'll see me wearing, obviously, this now, but I won't be wearing it in the next thing you'll see. So what we're going to be doing next is the installation of the solar itself. And so Jake and I will be installing that on the roof. Hey everyone, so what we've done here is we've managed to install both of the solar panels into this section here, which is nicely in between the fan and the air conditioning there. So that's just given us a lot more room at the back of the van. Should we wish to install anything later down the line, whether it's another fan or a skylight or anything like that, we'll have the room, which is really good, I think. So what we've also done here, as you can see, is we've installed the little roof cap sort of thing for the cables. So the cables, they go inside the van now, and it's all sealed up, so it's flexed up, and then we can start to connect all that underneath. Hey again. So after the install on the roof, the next thing was, instead of being inside and doing the rest of the solar setup, I saved that for another time. So Rachelle was around that weekend. So what we did was we worked on the insulation, started on the insulation, the first layer of insulation. That is essentially this stuff from a company called Car Builders, which is the first layer. It's just a sticky adhesive insulation, and so we sort of measured up all the little nooks and crannies around the van and started to install that as well. Alright, so next I'm back on the roof because it turns out I missed a fuse in the setup. Now that's not only not a problem, but the fact that we, I guess, installed it on the roof in the way we did by interlapping them on the roof, and also by cable tying everything underneath the solar panel so that it was nice and hidden and tucked away, meant I had to undo all of that to put the fuse in the line for the solar power. So the next thing is me taking that all back up, getting the fuse, putting it in, and putting it all back in again. Long way around? No, it just seemed like it was 5 minutes ago that I saw you and then like, how big is the fan? I think on this passenger seat, as in sorry, that seat there, it's a fuse basically, but it's like a black thing about this long, basically like a cylinder looking thing, black plastic. Yeah, perfect. Just launch it if you want. Don't come up. Oh, hey. Got that with one hand. Thanks, Ev. Alright, so lastly is me inside the van now, hopefully kind of just playing with some of the solar setup, and I just wanted to kind of get it up and running to see that it can work. So what you'll see there is just me plugging everything together and then hopefully doing a bit of testing to make sure it's all working correctly.
Prick.
Is that going to hold? Oh, careful. Power. First fault. So here is the solar setup. Okay, this is, I guess the electricity setup. So it looks quite simple. There's not a lot here, but what we're looking at. So if you start, I guess, in the middle there. So this is a 100 amp hour lithium battery, and I have two of these. Okay, so they'll be connected together to give me 200 amp hours. Now, with any battery, you can't run it to its death, really. You're not supposed to. So I can probably get around 85 hours per battery. So 160, 170 amp hours, which is a lot, especially for the way we're going to use it. Weekend trips or for my office. So that should be absolutely plenty. Now, that is also thinking around the fact that this power is not adding any more power in at the same time. However, we are, because we'll have solar, and that's where this next piece comes in. So this here is the Redarc Manager 30. So it doesn't look too much, but what it can do, and is a very clever piece of kit, this will bring in all different types of power and then manage them for me and just control the power to the battery. Okay, and it will just make sure that the battery gets charged in the correct way using the right mode, so because it knows it's a lithium battery, and so it will do it in the right way instead of just throwing power at it, and which can damage the battery. So just to your left here, that's to illustrate essentially the 240. So there's going to be an outlet just there. That will be on the outside of the van, so we can plug in on a campsite or even on the driveway or anything like that. So that will come in on a 240, same as your house, and then that will go into the Redarc, and then that will charge the battery. Now, at the same time, the red and black is illustrating, and you can imagine, a solar panel next on the other end of that. So that will then come in again. The Redarc will go, okay, cool, you have some solar available, so I'm going to use that instead. So that's what's like essentially a green mode, where it says, I'd rather use the sun than the 240 from the grid, which obviously is not very good for the environment. So it will override and just go, yep, I've got solar, and use that into the battery again. Okay. Moving down, we have here a 3000 watt inverter. Okay, and as you can see, the Renology is the choice of brand for me here. Seems a very reliable brand, good support, good quality product as well. So these aren't bottom of the market, definitely not top of the market, but they're definitely a very good product to use. So the 3000 watts means I can essentially run a number of 240 watt devices, 240 volt devices from inside the van. So in my case, it'll probably be a coffee machine or TV or something like that. So these things, I haven't got a 12 volt version, and so they need 230 volts. So this will turn the 12 volts from the battery into 230 volts. So like I said, a coffee machine or a TV can run. So that'll obviously draw a lot more power from the battery at that point whenever they're being used. So hopefully there'll be things that I won't use too often or aren't going to actually consume that much power. Okay, and then lastly, just over here, this is the fuse box. So very small, very simple, but what will happen is the power will come in, that will get pushed to the battery, keeping the battery nice and happy and full as much as possible. And from the battery, things will go from there to the fuse box. From the fuse box, that is where everything will come back to in the van. So this is where my lights will come back to, the switches, any sockets, 12 volt sockets, USB-C, any 12 volt plug-in sockets, car sockets, anything like that. Anything that's running on the 12 volt, the fan that we've seen in the previous video, that will all come back to this fuse box, which will then draw its power obviously from the battery itself. So this will be all set up inside the van, all cabled together, all with fuses in line, etc, etc. And that's essentially the setup. So it sounds quite simple, but it's all just about calculating the right amount of power, right amount of fuse, right cables to use, etc, to make sure it all works safely as well. And obviously with the 230, that has to be done by an electrician as well. So I can do all the 12 volt, but I can't do the 230 legally in Australia. So I'll have to get assistance with that part. But there, that's the power setup. Now, as you just saw, I did have it all working. As I say, I had some power. However, you could maybe even heard the slight noise in the background, like a beeping. That was the Manager 30 telling me there's an error. And so I had to do a lot of research. I had to contact Redarc, and I didn't understand why. Turns out I had the red and the black around the wrong way. So it's a simple mistake, and I guess thankfully the Manager 30 meant that I could make that mistake. Because if it was kind of any other system or anything, I guess, a bit more inferior, then it probably would have just blown or really caused a problem later down the line, where I would have plugged something in and that would have caused a reverse polarity on it. So thankfully that highlighted it, I managed to fix it, and then the solar worked perfectly. And so that wraps things up for this kind of episode, I guess. So we started on the installation, it's not finished. We've kind of installed some of the solar, again, just doing testing around it as opposed to being in and installed. So in the next episode, I'm going to be working on more insulation and also starting the electrical work, because all of the insulation and the electrical has to go in before more insulation. So it's a layered process, and it does take time. You've got to do it, I guess, in the right order and take your time doing it to do it properly. So I guess that's why it's kind of a stop-start. A few half things have started, but we're slowly coming together, and then eventually we'll be able to get on the inside and really start to move forward with things.